I don't get the overreaction to the Yankees winning those 5 games in a row going into the trade deadline, winning that final game or the final 2 games against Boston and then sweeping away the Phillies. It was like all the 7 weeks of bad baseball was erased because the Yankees won 5 straight and they acquired Jazz Chisholm and away we go with the Yankees. But yet since then, they've been an average team. Okay, maybe they're better than the worst team or second worst team in baseball over the 7-week stretch, but they've leveled off to where they're a little bit, around a 500 team for the last 20 games or so against teams that aren't very good. Now, last night, Cleveland Guardians are one of the better teams, and they come in and they end up beating the Yankees in a game where, all right, the Guardians aren't that great either, but the Yankees were so sloppy throughout the course of the game and then using every reliever, not hitting with runners in scoring position all night long, and eventually getting beaten by the Guardians, where in extra innings, it feels like the home team should win with the new rules, with the guy I place on second base. Feels like the home team should be winning almost every time, if not the majority of the time. But the best thing you could say about the Yankees is that as a team, not individual, as a team, because obviously you could look at Judge and Soto and those guys are all world. And even in a game last night where those 2 hit home runs, they still find a way to lose a game. But the best thing that you could say about the Yankees is that, well, nobody else is that good either. And that's something that we've heard throughout the course of the season. Well, look at the Orioles. Are the Orioles that good? No. Oh, look at Cleveland. Oh, do you trust anybody in the AL Central? Oh, look at the West. Who in the West is going to beat the Yankees? And that's not good enough for the New York Yankees. It really shouldn't be a good enough excuse for anybody. Well, they're not good either. Well, he did it too. Well, she did it too. No, that's not good enough. Focus on what you do and what the Yankees are as a team. And Yankee fans can pretend all they want. The Yankees themselves can pretend all they want. Whether it's Cashman, whether it's Boone, Hal, whoever. The reality is nothing about watching this Yankees team as a team, because obviously you have to leave Judge and Soto out, who, yes, when you look at those two, they're the top of the sport. Those two would say, yeah, we could win a World Series, just those 2 guys alone. But you've seen, even with those 2 guys alone who've been healthy, producing at the highest of levels, nothing else about this team as a team screams to you that they can be the best team in Major League Baseball. Other than, oh yeah, well, who is? Look at the Phillies. They aren't that good, or the Dodgers. But that's not good enough. The Yankees should be better than everybody else. And no matter what, going into the postseason this year, and we know the Yankees are going to be going into the postseason, the feel is not going to be, okay, the Yankees are going to win the World Series, or at least this is a team that should win the World Series. Now let's see if they live up to those lofty expectations. And that has happened before, and the Yankees have fallen short before, obviously every year since 2009. Not that every year going in, you felt like the Yankees were going to win the World Series, but a lot of the time, maybe you feel like, certainly for me, after 2017, it felt like, okay, yeah, this is going to be the Yankees' year. 2018, 2019, okay, 2020, all right, this is going to be their year. And really since 2021, it's been a little bit different, where they failed in the regular season in 2021. We've gone over the history. Don't need to go into that. But for the Yankees to get to that next level, the way that we followed this team and respected this team and believed in this team, whether it was back in the 90s or 2009, whatever it may be, or the early 2000s, where they were in the World Series every year, even though they weren't winning, 2001, 2003, whatever. They need to be better than everybody else. The results may vary. Like if the Yankees are better than everybody else definitively in the regular season going into the playoffs and they get beat, okay, that's unfortunate. Obviously, you don't want that to be the case, but that is a different level to be the best in the regular season than go into the playoffs as favorites and either fail, succeed, whatever. Right now, they're not that. Right now, they're one of a bunch of teams that are going to be playoff teams that have a chance of winning a World Series. And that's not good enough. That's not good enough for the Yankees or for the New York Yankees standards that they set themselves. That's the big issue. And I feel like the Yankees don't even acknowledge that. Brian Cashman, when he was on with BT and I a couple weeks back, basically said the same thing, like, hey, well, we'll see. Yeah, we put our pieces in place. I'll say that we've done as much as anybody else, or we'll take our chance in the postseason. Yeah, okay, you're on par with all the other playoff teams. If the Yankees were really that good, they would have been pulling away from the Orioles. Just the same way we could look at the Orioles and say, well, if they were really that good, they'd be pulling away from the Yankees. Neither team is. Cleveland's good, okay, but how good are they? The Astros they were awful to start the year. They've righted the ship, and now they're still a threat because, they're the Astros, and they always win in the postseason. They've staved off the Mariners in the ALS. Like, maybe the Astros, you look at them being more legit than anybody else because of the pedigree that they have. But the Yankees aren't at that top level. And especially with Soto and Judge, especially in a year where you go trade for Juan Soto, you should be at that top level. And night in, night out, especially after the very early part of the season. I don't care what their record says. Well, Yankees have the most wins in baseball. We went over that earlier in the week where, no team in baseball is on pace for 100 wins. Hasn't happened since 2014. So, the Yankees are one of a bunch of teams that can win the World Series just because the odds are you're in the postseason, you have a chance. Technically, if you're in the postseason, you have a chance to win a World Series. Not because they're built to be a World Series team. Big difference. And that's the problem. And if you watch this team, whether it's the lackadaisical defense at times, the boneheaded mistakes that they make, the base running. Trent Grisham is in the game as a pinch runner. And you want to blame Luis Rojas? I don't know. They showed the replay where it could have looked like a stop sign. I think Grisham just slowed down on his own, assuming that he wasn't going to be given the green light, assuming that he wasn't going to be waved home by Rojas. Point is, you're Grisham. You're in that game for that specific reason. And he didn't do the job. Whether it's watching LeMahieu night and night. Why are the New York Yankees continuing to roll LeMahieu out there? And I don't want to hear Jazz being hurt as an excuse. Not enough. And the same people that were ripping, and I'm talking to BT too, he's not here, but same people like BT that were ripping this Yankee team for that 7-week stretch where they didn't do enough, they weren't good enough, need major changes at the trade deadline. They got sucked in after 5 games against the Red Sox and Phillies and the addition of Jazz. And they thought that was it. Add Jazz Chisholm, and the 5-game winning streak, Yankees are back. Wrong. They weren't back. They're not back. They never were. They're playing better than the second worst team in baseball after that 7-week stretch, but they're still not any good. They're one of a bunch of okay teams that are going to be in the playoffs. They're held to a higher standard. With a lineup with Soto and Judge, why can't the Yankees drive in runs with runners in scoring position? Why is it so difficult? It shouldn't be that hard. And if not for the emergence of Austin Wells, who maybe hit into some bad luck last night, the Yankees would be even worse off than what they are right now. And yet Boone and Cashman continue to, and Boone's more specific. Cashman, again, yesterday, with you talking to the Post about Volpe. We went over the Boone stuff with John Boy, about Volpe. Even that is symbolic of what this Yankee franchise, and I thought John Boy nailed it with a tweet yesterday. He's as smart as they come and as a big and knowledgeable Yankee fan as there is. And he twists the Yankees into pretzels because he's got answers and they don't. They just keep deflecting and defending without any legit merit behind it. But this has been a pattern for the Yankees for years, where they say one thing, they do one thing, and they believe in one thing, and then all of a sudden they change. Whether it is, we used the example yesterday, where, they shoved IKF down our throat, or go back before that with Gleyber Torres as a shortstop before eventually saying, you know what, he's not a shortstop, he's a second baseman. Oh, okay, well, I wonder where you could have heard that before. Or with IKF. IKF cannot be a shortstop on a winning team. And the Yankees, and eventually, no, Boone with the metrics. Oh, no, look at the metrics defensively. And then finally they get him off of there as they go into the playoffs. And now the defending of Volpe. And this is a different story, and I'm not sure where it came from with sending Volpe to the minor leagues or that type of talk, because I would never say that. But let's not pretend that like Boone and Cashman talk about Volpe as if he's a superstar. That's what the expectation was of Volpe. And nobody wants to hear, he's a 23-year-old kid. Yeah, well, he's in the big leagues. And when you're in the big leagues, that's the time to produce, not learn on the job. Volpe has clearly been learning on the job these first 2 years. And you can talk about his numbers being incrementally better. In most cases, the power numbers are down. Oh, yeah, but he's a great defensive player. Yeah, that's terrific. And that's great. He's a great defensive player. That's nice. But that's not the expectation. He was a number 1 pick, a top pick for this team. He was supposed to be a star in the game. He's not a star right now. Now, I still believe in Volpe, but at some point he's got to be that. And I really do think his inconsistency is part of the Yankees' problems. And they overlooked that. Boone, defiantly, he's a winning player. Okay, Aaron, sure, he's a winning player. Now do Gleyber. Is Gleyber a winning player? Because Boone and Cashman will defend Gleyber Torres. As they continue to run him out there at second base. And when Gleyber does stupid things, bonehead things that cost you games, which has happened since he's been here, what does Boone say? He defends him. Well, just one pop-up, or just this play, that's how Gleyber is. But you look at the analytics and you look at the statistics. It's the same thing with multiple players for multiple years. They just don't get it. And if you watch this Yankee team night in, night out, you know this team ain't it. It doesn't mean definitively they can't go on a run in the postseason, but I can say definitively they're not likely to go on that run based on what we've watched here for now the better part of 10 weeks. Like you could say in the beginning of the year, the Yankees look like a team that couldn't be beat, and you would be right. But that has fallen off. Verdugo has done nothing. Volpe's been inconsistent. LeMahieu was washed up. Stanton, not having his presence, felt all the return of Giancarlo. Gleyber, nothing. It's Judge and Soto, and now a little bit of Austin Wells. Oh, Ben Rice had a moment. Now what? Not to mention the pitching with the bullpen. Do you trust Clay Holmes? No. Who does at this point? I mean, they have some arms, sure, but I mean, their bullpen's not. What is this Yankees' strength? We know Soto and Judge. Yes, that's not enough. That has been proven. What is the identity? What is the strength of this New York Yankee team? Because right now, to me, there's more weaknesses than strengths. And I asked Cashman directly, what's your biggest weakness? He said he doesn't think they have any. So now you tell me. Are the Yankees being honest with themselves? We see it. Do the Yankees actually see it? And that may be the biggest problem of all. BT and Sal on the fan. Let's get to your calls. 888-808-1019. Chris is in Stamford. What's up, Chris?
Hey, how's it going?
How are you, Chris?
I'm good, thanks. I just wanted to really talk and vent my frustrations about Aaron Boone. I've always felt from day one he never was qualified for the job. He had no coaching experience, and he was hired because he hit a home run in 2003 that everybody remembers.
Yeah, but this is not on Aaron Boone, Chris. This is the furthest thing from Aaron.
No, I'm not saying it's all on Aaron Boone, but I think a large part of it is because he's not willing to hold the players accountable. It's one thing when they lose games. They've lost games before. Even in my lifetime, I've seen the Yankees not make the playoffs before. So this is not the worst Yankee team of all time by any means, but I've never seen a Yankee team that was so incapable of doing the easy things well and doing the basic stuff well. And I think that's the part that goes back to the coaching staff, not just Aaron Boone, but the hitting coach, the pitching coach, and the entire coaching staff.
Yeah, I can't blame Boone, and thank you for the call, Chris. I know why you're saying that, and as a whole, they just haven't been good enough. I mean, they've been sloppy. Watch the game last night. Now you want to say you blame the manager for that? Here's where I would criticize Boone. I don't think Boone is either honest enough with us, meaning the media and the fans, or honest enough with himself in a true assessment of the team. I can't speak to, I've never spoken to Boone personally. I'd love to. I've never spoken to him. I don't know. We've had his brother on, and his brother seems to think that Aaron behind the scenes would be a little more critical and accountable, hold players more accountable than he does publicly. But I see him get frustrated with John Boy on occasion. I see Boone get frustrated with the media, and I do love his passion. I love when he gets on an umpire, and I don't think he's the problem. But the one thing that I would say about Boone is that he's overly protective of the players, and it gets old and it gets tired. And I've heard the same song and dance for years with the New York Yankees. The same song and dance for years. Guys aren't getting the job done. He's making excuses for them. They'll be all right. He's a winning player. He's a winning player. But you make those same excuses for Gleyber Torres, who nobody in their right mind would ever call a winning player. And you make the same excuses for him. Now, I'm not saying that Volpe and Gleyber are in the same boat. Different reasons here. John Boy had an excellent tweet, and he had receipts to show it. As a matter of fact, we'll play that when we come back. I want Zoo to get that set up. I want to play because remember when Cashman got fiery in the offseason with the media, where he was defending his moves and, thinking that the Yankees were just hurt last year. And that's why, the biggest reason for them not making the postseason. He was called out on a bunch of things, and he went on. And John Boy cut up one soundbite of him talking about Volpe, where he got really testy. And then the same thing on Boone. And he had an excellent tweet basically summing up the issues with the Yankees, going back to them passing on stud free agent shortstops in a championship window, which we talked about live on the radio every day. What are we doing here? Oh, you're going to hold on to Volpe, you're going to have IKF, stopgap shortstop, and not go get and spend big money on big-time players where you could have already had a championship or two. Okay, if you're going to do that, then Volpe better be the goods and a stud. And now it's, well, he's learning in his first 2 years. Well, how many years do we have here? I mean, maybe by the time Volpe kicks it in a gear, Judge is going to be past his prime. You have that cut too. I want to hear this. Now, this is from the tweet that John Boy tweeted out yesterday of both Cashman and then Boone. This is Cashman last offseason. Starts with Cashman last offseason defending Anthony Volpe. Go ahead.
Add it all up. He's a winning player.
No. Zoo, hold on. That's the wrong one. That's the Boone cut. Did you go to John Boy's tweet?
I got the from in the system.
Go to John Boy's tweet from 18 hours ago, and I want you to play that exact soundbite on the air. It's Cashman who met the media last year. I mean, we probably have it somewhere in the system from last year, but the way John Boy did it, and it's right there, and we give him credit for it, cutting it up, and he summed it up perfectly. And there is no defense to that because he's got all the receipts. He's got all the facts. The Yankees say one thing, another result happens, and then they say another thing. Cashman, it was something, I'll paraphrase for a second before we find it. It was something of him basically saying like, oh yeah, well, I look forward to all you guys next year when Volpe's playing like a superstar, questioning Volpe and us and the Yankees as a system. And now this year when we are questioning Volpe and his development and his inconsistencies, it's, oh, he's a winning player and he's a great defensive shortstop. By the way, I've heard this multiple times. And this is not a Met Yankee thing. This is just a fact thing. Everybody keeps saying Volpe's the best defensive shortstop in the game. He's not even the best defensive shortstop in the town. You have it, Zoo? All right, go ahead, play this.
I look forward to that. I look forward to you telling me that when Volpe crushes it offensively this year for us, that you'll say, hey, man, I guess your development program did a good job. And it was just sea legs under him his first maiden voyage year with not much triple A under his belt.
He's hitting like a league average or below league average hitter. Like
well below, yeah.
Add it all up. He's a winning player.
Yeah. See, John Boy summed it up perfectly. That's exactly right. Cashman says, I look forward to you all telling me when Volpe is crushing it next year and giving him the excuse of, okay, he's just getting his sea legs under him after his rookie season. Fine. 209, but 21 homers. All right, showed some promise. And again, I love Volpe and think Volpe's going to be a superstar. But what happened in year two? Where is it? He's hitting 250. He's got 11 home runs. So now we're going to hang our hats on. Wow, look at the stolen bases that he has and look at the great defense. He's a winning player. And those things may be true, but Volpe was supposed to be better than this, way better. He's been horrible as of late. He's been inconsistent. Started the year like a superstar. That was the Volpe that we were expecting. And what has he been as of late? He's one of the primary reasons for the Yankees lineup inconsistencies. It's the Yankees not acknowledging the reality of the situation. Like Boone or Cashman, and nobody, I don't know where this idea came of sending him down to the minors. John Boy never suggested that. Who the hell would say send him down to the minors at this point? Talked about a reset. For some reason, the Post asked Cashman about being sent down to the minors. That doesn't make any sense. Nobody ever said that. A reset and a little bit of a break, just like they did with Glaber, that is what John Boy was talking about. That maybe that's needed for Volpe. Boone then flips out. The Post reaches out to Cashman. Cashman's got a comment on that. Nobody. Now, last year we talked about sending Volpe down potentially, which made sense in his rookie year. Nobody's talking about that now, but I mean, maybe we should start talking about that because he's not the player that they said he was going to be. That's a fact. And they are not acknowledging that that's the case. That's a bigger problem than not even hitting with runners in scoring position. I don't think the Yankees realize how bad it is. You look at the record, they're going to say we're as good as anybody else. That's great. You're the Yankees. You should be held to a higher standard. And in a year where the league is wide open for a dominant baseball team, there's no excuse why you added Juan Soto and didn't do enough, whether it's in the offseason or at the trade deadline, or clean up and trim the fat that you've had here that hasn't succeeded for years. There's no excuse why you didn't take that next step to be that much better than everybody else. Wouldn't have guaranteed a World Series, but you'd feel a lot better about yourselves if the Yankees were head and shoulders above everybody else. The clear best team going into October, as opposed to one of the handful of teams that are going into October with a chance to win a World Series. BT and Sal on the Fan. More your calls on the other side.